My long-distance girlfriend, Miriam, just got promoted, and I wanted to surprise her. I bought flowers and a cake and took a 1 a.m. flight to her city, Austin. But the person who answered the door was her childhood sweetheart, Alex, while she was on the balcony, hanging up men's underwear. "Honey, who is it?" she asked casually, and my heart sank like a stone. When Miriam saw me, her expression immediately froze. I smirked, then smacked her first love in the face with the thorny roses. "This is my apartment. Pack your things and get out." I was scrolling through Facebook when I suddenly saw Miriam's promotion announcement. Because of work, we hadn't seen each other in almost 3 months, so I immediately booked a flight to her city. I didn't tell Miriam beforehand. I just waited outside her apartment with a bouquet, ready to give her a surprise. But to my shock, Miriam appeared before me, holding hands with another man. That man was Alex Croft, Miriam's childhood friend and also her first love. Miriam was carrying a bag of snacks, and Alex was holding a basket of groceries. They walked together, leaning on each other affectionately, looking just like a young couple. At that moment, Miriam finally noticed me. She hurriedly let go of Alex's hand and walked stiffly towards me. "Edward, why didn't you tell me you were coming?" I suppressed my emotions and said calmly, "I saw you got promoted, so I wanted to surprise you." But seeing Miriam like this, it seemed more like a shock than a pleasant surprise. Sure enough, Miriam frowned and mumbled, "This is so sudden." Alex spoke up, "Miriam, Edward traveled all this way to see you. Why are we standing outside? Let's go inside." He expertly went to the door, punched in the code, and naturally opened the door, inviting me in as if he were the man of the house. I almost forgot that I was the one who bought this apartment. Just because Miriam said she liked it, I went through a lot of trouble to buy it from the landlord at a high price, intending to give it to her as a wedding gift when we got married. Now, I felt like an outsider. After entering, Alex sprawled on the sofa, playing with his phone, while Miriam put on an apron and started cooking. I never knew that Miriam, who always acted like a princess who wouldn't lift a finger in the kitchen, would cook for someone else. Miriam quickly made 3 dishes and a soup, but every dish had seafood in it. She enthusiastically served Alex some porridge and complained in a teasing tone, "Hurry up and eat while it's hot, you spoiled brat who can't live without seafood." "Miriam," Alex affectionately ruffled her hair, "you're so good to me, babe." They flirted for a while before finally remembering I was there. Miriam saw that I hadn't touched my food and asked, "Edward, have you already eaten?" I said faintly, "I'm allergic to seafood." The living room fell into an awkward silence for a few seconds. Alex quickly asked me with concern, "Edward, why didn't you say so earlier? Did you accidentally eat any fish or crab meat?" I shook my head no. He smiled again and casually put his elbow on Miriam's shoulder. See, Miriam was so focused on me and my love for seafood that she forgot to make something you could eat. Hearing this, Miriam laughed too. "Stop teasing. You know I'm taking care of you, so hurry up and eat while it's hot. You have to finish everything, or else." "Yes, ma'am." Because I planned this trip in a hurry, I could only get a discounted ticket. After working overtime for several days in a row, I had to sit in a cramped seat for hours without being able to stretch my legs. But the thought of seeing Miriam soon made me feel less tired. However, after actually seeing her, I felt a deep sense of exhaustion. I endured my hunger, watching Miriam and Alex feed each other and whisper sweet nothings throughout the meal. When the meal was over, Alex showed no signs of leaving. I asked Miriam, "Are you two living together?" Alex shrugged and nodded matter-of-factly. My heart clenched. Miriam had a smile on her face and looked at Alex tenderly. Alex is living alone in this city, and I was worried about him. His lease was up, and I had extra space here, so I let him move in. It's good to have someone around. Alex touched Miriam's cheek, looking touched, and then sighed softly. To be honest, I'm a grown man. It's a bit embarrassing to be taken care of by a young woman. But I've gotten used to this comfortable life, and it's hard to leave. In today's society, there aren't many girls like Miriam who give selflessly without expecting anything in return. You agree, right, Edward? I remained silent. Miriam playfully pushed him. "You and your sweet talk." After their playful banter, Miriam checked her phone. She looked at me with a bit of difficulty. "Edward, it's getting late. Should I drop you off at a hotel?" Looking down at the luggage Miriam handed me, I pushed it away and said unhappily, "Miriam, have you forgotten who your boyfriend is?" From the moment I arrived in this city and saw Miriam, she was holding hand with Alex. She clearly remembered Alex's tastes and preferences, but didn't know I was allergic to seafood. She, who I always took care of, was now cooking for Alex and even feeding him in front of me. The most outrageous part was that they were living together in my apartment without my knowledge. Now she was trying to kick me out. I felt like a fool standing outside with a bouquet for 2 hours only to be met with this. Actually, there were signs all along. After graduation, Miriam didn't want to stay in our hometown, Dallas, and insisted on coming to Austin to work. At the time, our mutual friends warned me that Miriam's first love, Alex, was starting a business here and I should be wary. But I didn't want to hinder Miriam's choices because of these unfounded suspicions. I gave her my full support, thinking that distance wouldn't be an obstacle in our relationship. But Miriam became increasingly distant, even making excuses to avoid our daily video calls. us. Especially in the past month, she started using work as an excuse to frequently cut off contact. We had reached the stage of discussing marriage, and we were supposed to meet each other's parents on my birthday this year. But on my birthday, I couldn't reach Miriam, leaving me and my parents awkwardly facing a table full of food prepared for her. The next day, she called to apologize, using the excuse of a sudden work assignment. She said she would make it up to me by taking me on a trip, and I excitedly made travel plans overnight, preparing outfits and matching dresses for her to wear in photos at various attractions. 2 days before the trip, she predictably canceled again, casually canceling the travel plans I had made according to her wishes. Although I was disappointed, I agreed because I knew she was ambitious and wanted to prove herself because of her humble background. So this time, I took the initiative to come to Miriam's city, only to be caught off guard by the reality before me. Hearing my words, Miriam's face immediately turned cold. "Edward, what do you mean?" I suppressed the bitterness in my heart and said, "You and Alex, a man and a woman, are living together, yet you want me to stay in a hotel. Miriam, don't you think you're going too far?" In the past, to avoid a long-distance relationship, I had suggested moving my job here to be with Miriam. But Miriam had sternly refused. She had said firmly at the time, "Edward, we're both at a stage in our lives where we should be focusing on our careers. Work should come first. Besides, I'm so busy with work that even if you moved here, we wouldn't see each other much anyway." Miriam was firmly against living together before marriage. When we were dating, no matter how late it was, she would always insist that I drive her all the way back home. Even if it meant that I wouldn't get home until dawn, she would never let me stay over. She would always lecture me. "We're just dating, not married yet. You need to have some boundaries." I chose to respect her on this matter. After all, everyone has their own principles, so I didn't force her. But I never imagined that Miriam's so-called principles could be so easily broken when it came to Alex. Under my questioning, Miriam became completely enraged. She glared at me, her eyes cold enough to devour me. "Edward, so you're suspecting me? Alex and I have done nothing wrong. You better get rid of those filthy thoughts. Yes, you bought this apartment, but I didn't ask you to buy it for me. And as my boyfriend, isn't it natural for you to buy me an apartment? Since you brought it up, I'll leave with that." Miriam started packing her bags. Alex quickly stopped her and tried to calm her down. "Miriam, calm down. Don't be angry." He turned to me, his face arrogant and mocking. "Edward, aren't you being a bit dramatic? Miriam and I have known each other for so many years. We're like family. To describe us as a man and a woman alone is a bit much. Besides, if there was really something between us, would it even be your turn?" With that, he let out a cold snort and continued to comfort Miriam. Miriam's mood calmed down a bit after seeing Alex. "Edward, let's talk outside." Miriam dragged me far away, stopping under a street lamp. Her attitude softened, and she blinked, forcing out a few tears. I never expected her attitude to change so quickly in just a few minutes. "Edward, do you have some misunderstanding about me? Even so, you shouldn't say such hurtful things to me. I'm your girlfriend." I was a little surprised. "Oh, you know I'm your boyfriend? If we're talking about hurtful, Miriam, isn't what you did more hurtful?" She sobbed and stammered, defending herself. "I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you saying this to me? You don't know. The reason I let Alex stay here is that he recently failed in his business and suffered a huge blow. He was in a really bad mental state and couldn't even pay his rent. You know, Alex and I grew up together. My family was poor, and if it weren't for Alex always being there for me and encouraging me, I wouldn't be where I am today. So when he was facing such difficulties, I couldn't just stand by and watch. I was really worried he might do something drastic. I had no choice but to let him stay here temporarily. Edward, you understand me, right?" Miriam looked at me with tears in her eyes. Seeing that I remained silent, she raised her hand and swore. "I know I should have told you about this beforehand. Don't worry, I'll have Alex move out tonight." I was skeptical. "Really?" Miriam nodded firmly. "I promise." But at this point, I didn't know if I could trust her anymore. Miriam started acting coquettishly again and pushed me into a hotel, saying softly, "Edward, you should rest here tonight. Tomorrow I'll take you out to eat, and we can explore the city together." Before I could react, she gave me a quick kiss and left. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Early the next morning, I knocked on the apartment door again. Alex, who was supposed to have moved out last night, appeared at the door in just his underwear, looking sleepy. He had a Band-Aid conspicuously placed on the corner of his mouth. When he saw me, Alex immediately frowned, looking impatient. "Edward, isn't it a bit rude to disturb people's sleep so early in the morning?" he said, starting to close the door. I couldn't suppress my anger any longer. I pushed Alex aside and entered the bedroom. The bedroom door was wide open, and Miriam was hurriedly putting on a nightgown. "Edward, why are you here again? Didn't I say I would come to find you today?" Miriam's eyes were evasive, and she was secretly trying to stuff something under her pillow. I grabbed Miriam's arm, pulled her out of bed, and lifted the pillow. What I saw made my breath catch in my throat, and I froze on the spot. I found that what she was hiding was a pair of men's underwear. Alex's clothes were scattered all over the bedroom floor. The bedsheet was wrinkled, as if forced foreshadowing everything that had happened on it last night. They weren't just living together, they were sharing a bed. Alex rushed over and pushed me away. He shielded Miriam behind him and pointed at my nose, cursing fiercely. "Edward, I've been putting up with you because of Miriam. You're really pushing it, aren't you? Daring to lay a hand on her in front of me? Are you even a man?" He grew angrier. "Get the hell out of here right now, or else I'll—" "You're the one who should get out," I reminded him. "Have you forgotten that this is my apartment? Put on your clothes and get out, you." Alex was furious and tried to hit me. The moment his fist came towards me, I grabbed Alex's wrist and punched him in the face. He immediately covered his nose in pain and fell to the ground, unable to say a word. I pointed at the door, my finger trembling uncontrollably. "Get out now. Get out." Miriam stumbled over to help Alex up. Her eyes were bloodshot as she roared at me. "Edward, have you lost your mind? How could you hit someone like that? If you're sick, go get treatment. Don't come here and act crazy." I looked at Miriam, my heart feeling like it had been ripped into a million pieces. "Yes, I'm sick." I threw the men's underwear in my hand at Miriam's face. "Miriam, only a fool would be played like this by you. I almost believed your lies yesterday. I even felt guilty for misunderstanding you before I opened the door, thinking I might have overreacted. Now I see that I was too naive. Miriam, your shamelessness is truly eye-opening." Miriam had never heard me say such harsh words to her before. Now she couldn't refute me. She just bit her lower lip and stared at me resentfully. But after a moment, she regained her composure and looked at me with a hint of disappointment. "Miriam," said in a trembling voice, "so this is why you came here so early in the morning? You've always suspected that Alex and I have an unclean relationship. Edward, if you thought that all along, why didn't you just say so? Why did you have to make such a scene? You're so hypocritical." I couldn't believe she could be so shameless. Even now, in this situation, Miriam was still turning the tables, saying that I didn't trust her enough. I closed my eyes and asked coldly, "Do you think I've wronged you, Miriam? Is that the point?" Miriam retorted, "Edward, from the moment you suspected me, the trust between us ended. I'm very disappointed in you. Go home and think about it. Reflect on yourself." She opened the apartment door, gesturing for me to leave. Alex wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and chimed in, "Edward, I'll let you off this time for Miriam's sake. But if there's a next time, I won't let you get away with it. Get out of here now and don't show your face around us for a while." I clenched my fists and walked up to Alex. His bravado immediately weakened, and he retreated behind Miriam, stammering, "What were you doing? If you dare hit me again, I'll call the police." I kicked his clothes on the floor. "Didn't you hear what I said? I told you to get out. Get out now, Edward." Miriam suddenly rushed in front of me, using her small frame to shield Alex, and threatened in a low voice, "It's already generous of Alex not to press charges against you for what you did today. Don't push your luck." I sneered and looked at Miriam calmly. She glared back at me, her eyes filled with disgust. Over the years, I had poured all my heart and effort into her, only to be met with this outcome. I sighed deeply, stared at Miriam, and said word by word, "I was so focused on telling him to get out that I forgot about you. Another piece of trash. Miriam, we're breaking up. Now you and him get out together." Miriam had already taken out her phone to call the police, but after hearing this, she froze. She looked up at me in disbelief. "Edward, what did you say? First, we're breaking up. Second, get out," I reiterated. But Miriam clearly thought I was joking, and she scoffed. "Is this some kind of reverse psychology?" I didn't waste any more words and forcefully pushed Miriam and Alex out of the apartment. The commotion attracted many neighbors who came to watch. Alex, who had been cursing at me with all kinds of profanities, suddenly changed his strategy when he saw the crowd. Wearing only his underwear, he shakily pointed at me, then clutched his chest and dramatically collapsed to the ground. Miriam screamed and rushed to Alex, patting his face anxiously. Alex, don't die. What's wrong with you? Wake up." People in the crowd started whispering. Miriam yelled at them, "Stop staring. Call an ambulance." Then she glared at me fiercely and screamed hysterically, "Edward, do you have to be so cruel? Look what you've done to Alex. If anything happens to him, I'll never forgive you." I sneered and kicked Alex lightly. "Stop pretending. If you want to die, don't do it at my doorstep. It's bad luck." Miriam glared at me and said, "Edward, do you think everyone is as hypocritical and dramatic as you? Do you know that Alex has a heart condition? When it flares up, it can be fatal." At that moment, an old lady squeezed through the crowd. She pointed at Miriam. "Hey, Miriam, what's wrong with your boyfriend? Why is he lying on the ground?" Boyfriend, I thought. When Miriam saw her, her eyes lit up as if she had found a lifeline. She quickly pulled the old lady over to Alex. She urged her anxiously, "Grandma Jean, please check Alex's pulse." He was just agitated, felt a chest pain, and fainted. The old lady calmly placed her hand on Alex's wrist. Then she said with confusion, "That's strange. Alex's pulse is quite strong. He seems fine. Why would he suddenly faint?" Miriam looked at her with dissatisfaction. "Grandma Peterson, I asked you to check Alex's pulse because I know you come from a family of traditional medicine practitioners. Now you're saying he's fine? What do you mean? Are you saying he's faking it? I think you're on Edward's side. How could he faint for no reason? You're just ganging up on me to kick me out. Don't even think about it." The old lady was immediately displeased and was about about to argue with Miriam, but before she could speak, the sound of an ambulance siren came from downstairs. Two paramedics got out of the ambulance and carried Alex onto a stretcher. Miriam also got into the ambulance, but before leaving, she threw me a spiteful look and said, "Edward, don't think you're so great just because you have some money. Our lives from the lower class may not be worth much, but that doesn't mean you can trample on them as you please. If anything happens to Alex, I'll never forgive you." Watching Miriam's departing figure in the ambulance, I felt a sense of relief, followed by a deep sadness. So this is how Miriam has always seen me. I met Miriam during our college years. We were both in music school, but I didn't have a deep impression of Miriam. She was always quiet in class, almost to the point of being reclusive. She rarely talked to her classmates and always kept to herself. But later, as if by some unspoken agreement, I started running into her in various places around the school. Sometimes it was in the cafeteria, sometimes in the boba shop, sometimes in the convenience store. She always appeared in these places as a part-time worker. I even admired Miriam at the time. How could a girl have so much energy to juggle school and part-time jobs, working day and night? But at that time, I was only curious about Miriam. Until one afternoon, I was practicing my singing by the school lake when I heard soft sobs coming from behind a large tree. My first instinct was to leave, but the next second, I heard Miriam's voice on the phone. She was arguing fiercely with someone on the other end. It turned out that Miriam's parents weren't locals and weren't very educated. They thought Miriam was wasting money by studying here and repeatedly urged her to go home, get married, and start earning money to help support the family. Otherwise, they would come to the school and cut off all her financial support. Miriam was adamant about not dropping out. After hanging up the phone, she squatted under the tree and cried for a long time. That's when I finally understood why Miriam was always working various part-time jobs around the school. She was working desperately just to secure a better future for herself. I was amazed and moved by Miriam's remarkable vitality. That night, I went to see the counselor. I decided to help Miriam anonymously, providing financial support for her to get through college. After a few months of this anonymous assistance, one day, Miriam suddenly invited me to dinner. Before this dinner, I had a feeling that Miriam might have found out something. Sure enough, after we sat down, Miriam handed me an IOU. Her face was flushed and she stammered, "Edward, I know about the financial aid. Thank you for helping me behind the scenes. Please take this IOU. I will definitely repay you in the future." I was amused by her reserved demeanor and quickly pushed the IOU back to her. I explained, "You don't need to feel any pressure about this. Let's just continue to interact as normal classmates, and you really don't need to pay me back." That day, despite my insistence, Miriam couldn't get me to accept the IOU. But after that, she often brought me breakfast and waited silently for me after basketball games, just to hand me a bottle of water. In this way, through our interactions, we gradually became familiar and eventually got together. After we started dating, I understood Miriam's hardships even more. It turned out that her family background was much worse than I had thought. It was also then that I learned about Alex. Alex was Miriam's childhood sweetheart and first love, and they grew up together. Miriam said that Alex had helped her when she was in a difficult situation. So even though they broke up, they were still friends like family and had a reason to keep in touch. I believed her and didn't say anything more. It wasn't until much later that I discovered that Miriam had actually given part of the money I'd been giving her to Alex. Because it had been several years, I didn't bring it up with Miriam, fearing it might touch a sensitive nerve. Yes, Miriam had always been very sensitive when it came to money. Even after we started dating, I always respected her, cared for her, and carefully maintained her self-esteem. But Miriam would often use my better financial background as an excuse, claiming that I didn't understand the hardships of people from her background. She would even argue with me about this topic, often using harsh words. Because I felt sorry for Miriam's unfortunate experiences, I always tolerated her. Miriam was ambitious and wanted to realize her self-worth through work. After graduation, she resolutely decided to come to this city alone to work. Although I didn't know what was so special about Austin, I still silently supported Miriam, backing everything she wanted to do. I bought her an apartment here and even asked a friend to introduce her to a local record company with good prospects. But it wasn't until now that I realized that the biggest reason Miriam came here was Alex. And no matter how much I did for her, I was just a stepping stone on her path to success, a despised rich kid with a stench of money, a nominal boyfriend who could be manipulated at will. I hired 2 cleaners to thoroughly clean the apartment, removing all traces of Miriam and Alex. But the sight of the apartment still bothered me. After careful consideration, I decided to sell it. I called Noah Harris, whose family were old friends of ours. They had been developing their business in Austin in recent years. I had asked Noah to help Miriam find a job. After Noah and I sat down at a coffee shop, I told him in detail about what had happened in the past 2 days. Noah was indignant after hearing my story, and he emphasized, "Edward, you were definitely deceived by Miriam. She was just using using you as a complete sucker. What, working overtime in no time? The company I found for her is known for its good treatment and never has overtime, especially not on statutory holidays. Actually, I had already guessed this without mentioning it. Hindsight is 2020, and only when I looked at this relationship objectively did I realize how foolish and slow I had been. Noah continued tentatively. Edward, there's one more thing I've been hesitant to tell you. The manager at Miriam's company has been telling me that Miriam is slacking off at work. She often leaves in a hurry after receiving a phone call. Now I think that person must be Alex. With her frequent tardiness and early departures, if it weren't for my strong connections, she would have been fired long ago. I cleared my throat and said seriously, Noah, Miriam and I broken up now, so you don't need to consider me anymore. Since she's not qualified for the job, just handle it according to the company's rules. Noah nodded at me in approval. Okay, let's not talk about her anymore. Let's get back to business. Noah, the main reason I came to you this time is to sell this apartment. Originally, this apartment was bought for Miriam's convenience to go to work, but it unexpectedly became a place for her and Alex's affair. Now, keeping this apartment was just too uncomfortable. Moreover, I wouldn't be developing my career in this city, so it was better to sell it directly to avoid further annoyance. Sure, that's easy, Noah readily agreed. I have a few sales acquaintances here, and I'll make sure it's sold at a high price in the shortest time. As Noah was flipping through his contacts, his eyes suddenly lit up and he clapped his hands and smiled at me. Edward, I just remembered that my cousin is planning to buy a house here. How about transferring it directly to her at the same price you originally bought it for? Sure, that's fine. I nodded in agreement. Also, the price doesn't really matter. I just want to get rid of it as soon as possible. Actually, I had wanted to transfer this apartment to Miriam's name a long time ago, but she always used sudden overtime or busy work as excuses to stand me up, so the matter was left unresolved. Now that the apartment was still in my name, it just bothered me whenever I saw it. My only thought was to quickly get rid of this emotional burden and make a clean break with the past. After saying goodbye to Noah and returning home, I found that I had many missed calls on my phone, all from Miriam. Since I didn't answer the calls, she sent me many iMessages. Edward, Alex is awake now. The doctor said he fainted because of low blood sugar. Although it's not a serious condition, he can't be agitated again, so don't come looking for me for a while. After I got back, I thought about it carefully. Your impulsive actions today might have been because you care about me too much, which is understandable to a certain extent. But you hitting Alex was too much. Of course, I also spoke a few good words for you in front of Alex. How about this? You come over now and apologize to Alex and transfer him $1 million. Then we can pretend nothing happened. Edward, answer the phone. Running away won't solve anything. The only thing you can do now is to come and admit your mistake. Hurry up. Time is of the essence. As I was reading these ridiculous messages, Miriam called again. I instinctively pressed the answer button. The next second, Miriam's urgent accusations came flooding in. Edward, I called you so many times. Why didn't you answer any of them? Are you trying to get my attention by playing disappearing acts? Get her attention? That was just too ridiculous. I said calmly, Miriam, if you have something to say, just say it. This time, Miriam didn't care about my attitude because she had more pressing matters. I just got a call from the department manager. She said the company is going to fire me. What's going on? Go ask Noah. He was the one who introduced me to this job. I was fired for no reason. He must be involved. Miriam was angrily explaining when she suddenly thought of something and changed her tone. Forget it. I don't care about this lousy company anyway. Go find me a few better companies. I need to choose carefully, but I want this company to pay. Go find me 2 lawyers. I want to file for labor arbitration. They can't just fire me like that. I won't leave without a large compensation. Edward, say something. Are you mute? Get this done for me as soon as possible. You hear me? I can't just let this go. I raised my eyebrows. Oh, weren't you just forcing me to apologize to Alex immediately? So should I apologize to him first or find you a lawyer? Miriam paused and said, Colin, find me a lawyer first, then come to the hospital immediately after you're done. I really didn't expect that Miriam could still order me around so smoothly, even now. Well, after all these years, this might be the only value I had left for her. In your dreams. I'm not going. I refused outright and reminded her. Miriam, please get this straight. We've already broken up. You need to find your own lawyer. But a reminder, if you're fired for slacking off, even hiring a lawyer would be a waste of money. With that, I hung up the phone, ignoring Miriam's furious reaction on the other end. Perhaps it was because my heart had already turned to ashes for Miriam that I could leave so decisively now. I had just blocked Miriam's contact information when I received a friend request on iMessage. It was from Noah's cousin, Riley Harris, whom he had mentioned earlier. Actually, I had met Riley when she was very young, and since we were both from the same hometown and now in the same city, it felt like fate. I chatted with Riley for a long time that night, and the next day, she asked to meet me to discuss the apartment in detail. I took Riley to visit the apartment. She was very satisfied with the overall layout and lighting. Riley asked me curiously, Edward, this apartment is really nice. Why are you in such a hurry to sell it? I didn't hide anything and told her the truth. Riley wrinkled her nose and said with a bit of disgust, "That is a bit off-putting, but it's okay. Once I take over this apartment, I'll renovate it thoroughly and have it cleaned for 3 days and 3 nights before moving in." I was amused by her words. We chatted and laughed as we walked out of the apartment, planning to find a place to have lunch together. But to our surprise, when we opened the door, we saw an angry Miriam. She pointed at me and started yelling, "Edward, no wonder you insisted on breaking up with me. You've already hooked up with someone else. You're cheating and two-timing. How shameless can you be?" I said sternly, "Miriam, this is my friend. Show some respect." Miriam scoffed. "Friend? I think she's just a shameless homewrecker. What's wrong with you? Can you even speak properly? Everyone knows who the cheater is here." Riley stepped forward. She wasn't going to put up with Miriam's deliberate provocation. But before any of us could react, Miriam grabbed Riley's hair and slapped her hard across the face. Riley screamed in pain, but Miriam still held onto her hair tightly, showing no signs of stopping. "Miriam, have you lost your mind?" I quickly pried Miriam's fingers away, pushed her to the ground, and stood in front of Riley. Miriam's eyes immediately turned red, and she looked at me in disbelief. "Edward, you push me for another woman? I'm your girlfriend. How would you do this to me?" After comforting Riley, I said coldly, "Miriam, we broke up a long time ago. She's my friend's little sister. Don't be unreasonable." Riley grabbed my arm. "Edward, don't waste your breath on her. Let's just call the police." Okay, I took out my phone and dialed 911. Miriam stared blankly, watching me as I reported the incident to the police. She seemed to be in shock, and her lips were trembling violently. "Edward, are you really going to call the police on me for this woman? You're going to send me to jail? Edward, don't you love me anymore?" I let out a self-deprecating laugh. "Miriam, before you ask these questions, please think about what you've done." The police arrived soon, and after we explained the situation to them, Miriam didn't even try to refute anything. She was taken away in a police car. During this process, she just kept looking at me with disbelief, her eyes filled with pain. As for Miriam's tears, I simply ignored them. After all, this was how she treated me every day and night in the past. This incident during the house sale made Riley a little afraid of the city. Riley sighed and said, "Edward, I've realized that living alone in a strange city is too unpredictable. It's better for me to go home." In the end, we decided to list the apartment on a real estate app and wait for the right buyer. After dealing with the situation, Riley and I took the same flight back to our hometown in Dallas. To express my apologies, I invited Riley to dinner when we got back. Because of Noah, my parents also knew Riley, so I invited her to our house. During dinner, I noticed that Riley was very well-behaved and polite, just the type of girl parents would like. Both of our parents were subtly trying to set us up. During the short time we spent together, Riley and I got along very well, and we were both open to the idea of dating. 2 weeks later, I was about to pick up Riley for a date after work when I unexpectedly saw Miriam downstairs at my company. Perhaps because she had been detained for a few days, Miriam looked very haggard. As soon as she saw me, she knelt down in front of me. I was startled by her actions and quickly tried to avoid her. "Miriam, what are you doing?" Miriam was crying, her face covered in tears, and she sobbed. "Edward, please don't leave me. I know you're seeing that woman, and you're even planning to get married. You can't do this to me. You said you would only marry me." Miriam cried heart-wrenchingly, looking as if she had been soaked in water. "I thought it through. You're the only one who's truly good to me. Alex is just a gold digger. He's been deceiving me all along. He got close to me just to get money from me. Alex talked about starting a business and being ambitious, but he actually used that as an excuse to keep asking me for money to gamble, and he treated me like a servant. How could I be so stupid to speak to you like that for a scumbag? Edward, please give me another chance. You're the one I love the most. I really don't know how to live without you." She cried and pleaded, hugging my leg tightly, tears streaming down her face. But seeing Miriam like this, it was more of a shock than anything else. "I won't, Miriam. You don't love me. You just love a walking ATM that gives you everything without asking for anything in return. Unfortunately, you've pushed that person away yourself. I have a new life now. I have my own princess to protect. So please leave and don't come looking for me again." "You can't do this," Miriam cried out in pain. "Edward, are you still holding a grudge about what happened that morning? But Alex and I really didn't do anything. We really didn't go all the way. Please believe me." As she spoke, Miriam took off her coat, revealing skin on her chest that was red and almost bleeding from being scrubbed. "I've cleaned myself. I've removed all the marks. Please give me another chance, okay?" Her eyes were fixed on me, hoping to see any sign of sympathy on my face. Unfortunately, there was none. I sighed and said coldly, "None of this matters to me anymore, Miriam. Take care of yourself." Miriam collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably without any regard for her appearance. I didn't look back, got into my car, and drove away. In the distance, Riley was waiting for me. I had let go of all the pain from my past and was ready for a new person, a new life.